Hello, and welcome to the first podcast of my podcast, episode of my podcast. You may be asking Jimmy, why a podcast? That's a good question, and one that's going to take the entirety of this podcast for me to answer. Podcast. How many times are we going to say podcast, Jimmy? The entire podcast. No, it's a long story, and why switch from movies to podcasts? Well, we're not really switching, but I it's been a really interesting last 2 years. Um, during my time at DePaul, my faith was tested in a lot of ways. Geez, I'm gonna test my audio real quick. It is going. Okay, it's green. I did just record like 27 minutes of this and then realize, and I was teary. And that was amazing. And then I realized the audio was not going. I don't know if it was the mic or what. And I've had this mic since I got sick. I wanted to be a rapper back then, and I've never written a full rap, and that hasn't done anything. But I still have this microphone and podcast, podcast. But again, here we are again. So during my time at DePaul, I'm not gonna lie, this was a very insecure place for me. There's no right or wrong in art, and w- I that's the hardest part of it. We wear a heart on our sleeves in art, and a lot of emotions come out. We deal with a lot of hard subjects in art, in filmmaking, in whatever we make, because that is whatever we make is an expression of our lives, of what we've been through. It is therapy in a lot of ways. And so many of us at DePaul, wherever we are, that we want to say something that we've been through, like my cancer, for example. We want to say something about that experience with what we make. And so, of course, like those of you that know me, I made my movie, The Cancer Card. It's a short film, and that was my thesis card. And I'm looking, is that a bug in my house already? It's only April and we have bugs. I'm looking at my high school where I started to use the cancer card. One of the fun first ways I used it is I was still feeling relatively good in the fall, and I went to a football game, and there was a giant line for pizza, like the food truck. And I was hungry, and I realized, people know what I'm going through. I don't think anybody's gonna say something if I walk to the front of this line and get my pizza. And so I was like to my friends, let me do it. I'm gonna do it. And so I walked to the front, and nobody said anything. And the beginning of the cancer card started in a mischievous way. Other people were, like families were bringing meals, and all the very wholesome and loving ways that the cancer card works. But the mischievous ways, which my movie gets into, that's where that started. Um, and so, I mean, that is my movie, and that the people have opinions about that. And I wanted it to be pretty PG rated in a lot of ways in my movie. But I mean, the heart of my story is a lot of survivor's guilt and stuff like that. And I there's so many feelings in the way. There's so many things that just I don't know. Like I said, going through DePaul was a tough time because everybody's got feelings, and I made a lot of bad choices when I was at DePaul. I wasn't the friendliest guy, and I wish I could do a lot of things over. And so these last 2 years since I graduated, I got to go to LA my last quarter, and I'm very grateful for that. I I I interned for a production company, and I was reading scripts, from the apartment they put us in there. And that was a cool experience. Nothing I read got picked up by the company, unfortunately. Um, and that's kind of the way Hollywood is right now. And looking back, growing up, everything is made off of a book or movie existing intellectual property. And I'm realizing how much stuff was made off of books or old movies. But it was a little upsetting that nothing got picked up. Um, and so I came home and I didn't know what my career was going to be. I had an internship editing that fall, and then I was out of a job for a few months. I got to work on my friend's um, thesis project and casting, and I got to play a drunk bus stop Bucky. Um, and then I had a casting intern because we did cast one of his roles through a casting agency, and that was really cool. During that time, I got actually because of filming that scene, I got double what's it called? I got double pneumonia during that time, and that was really scary. I felt pretty okay, and then all of a sudden I went into a immediate care or whatever, and they rushed me over to the hospital, and things got bad really fast. My heart rate was either really low or really high. After all my stem cell transplant and everything that went on during that time, I've had this stuff where I've had allergic reactions to antibiotics. I'm out of oral antibiotics that I can take. That's been for a long time. And now I am out of IV antibiotics. So I can't really get infections anymore. And so the last or IV antibiotic I was on when I got pneumonia, the last one I was fine on with my last infection, I got a full-blown allergic reaction to, and off most of the time that turns my skin fully red, and my skin then peels off over the next month. Um, and I go into shock, and then while that's happening, the the infection gets stronger and it worked its way into my blood, which is sepsis, and it was slowing my heart down, and I literally almost died. And it was really scary. For those of you watching The Pit, you see what it's like. So that's what happened to me last spring, but I am okay now, thank God. And I have had more internship since the fall. But so these last 2 years, a lot of my just wondering has been, where does God want me? Where does God want me? I don't know if he wants me to give up film. I don't know, you know, what he wants me to do. Just I'm lost for lack of words. I don't know if I have potential. I don't feel like it's in writing. I'm not a confident writer, and that's what I was kind of getting at the beginning of this is that's where a lot of my insecurity is. I feel stuck as a writer. I feel so not confident that it blocks me. And I mean, that's probably the bane of all writers. But it just turned me into such an ugly person at DePaul that I don't want to keep doing that. And so these last 2 years, I've just been like, I don't know where you want me, God. I don't want to become the ugly person I was when I was so insecure about my writing. I don't know where to go. I don't know where you want me. I don't know if you want me to give this up. I'm just not sure. And so because I'm at home, I'm living at home, and I've gotten internships. I haven't really been getting paid. I'm working as a substitute teacher for middle schoolers and grade schoolers, and I do like doing. It's tough, but I have also been working as a small group leader for the middle school group at my church. We call it Jam. And it's been hard because these kids, they just treat it like, you know, it's an after school party. They just want to run around and they have so much energy. a lot of energy when I was in middle school, but man, do these kids have energy and they don't want to listen. I felt like I wanted to listen to these stories as a kid, but they don't want to listen to the youth pastor. When we get in a small group, they just want to run around. We don't even get questions in most of the days. They just want to play this game they made up where they're just like clapping at each other and they're flickering the lights on and off, and it's rough. It's so rough. Um, and so it's been tough because I haven't had, small group experience with men. I don't know what I'm getting out of being a small group leader for middle schoolers for my faith other than patience, which has also been the theme of, you know, not knowing where my career is going. A lot of patience over these last 2 years. And I felt like, I've learned that lesson going through 2 years of cancer and health scares and continuing to not know how my health is going to progress ever since I've been beat up so bad. Um, and patience is the name of the game for me. But during Easter, or I guess before Easter, our church, we go through different series, we call them. And so during Lent season or a little before, we started this Rooted series with which they were encouraging getting into small groups and a book that came with it. And it was this larger book. It was more than a daily devotional. It was day by day, and it was hefty. It was it was like 2 to 3 big pages a day. And then you'd meet with your group once a week once a week and talk about it. And so I was like, oh, okay, I need to meet with some 20 to 30-year-old men as I'm in that age. I want to sign up for a group. Our church doesn't have a lot of 20 to 30-year-old men right now. But so when I said I'll sign up, they were like, oh, great, we have a group for you. I'm like, there's 20 to 30-year-old men. And so I get to my group on the first night and it's like divorced dads. And I'm like, oh no, God, what are you telling me? Am I gonna be a divorced dad one day? And I'm like, this is scary. I don't know what this says about my future. But so, it ended up I was shy at first for sure, but as we started going, we grew closer. And I think it was in the second or third week, um, we were talking about, or the book was talking about thinking of God, not just as God, but thinking of God as the Holy Trinity, which is God, um, the Father, Jesus the Son, and the Holy Spirit that, lives with us, lives within us, and live within God and Jesus. And my cancer, it started in my nasal cavity and spread to my throat and through the rest of my body. It was a lymphoma, and it was stage 4. It's a really rare form, and it was bad. It only had one protocol in the world that really got beat me down to nothing. I had to get a stem cell transplant that drops you down to like no stem cells, so you could take somebody else's stem cells and you have no immune system for a while after that. So I was quarantined before it was cool during the pandemic. Um, and so for a year, I was kind of like a baby immune system wise. And that led way to a second lymphoma forming in my brain less than a year later. So when that brain tumor happened, we had to figure out what type of lymphoma it was or what type of cancer it was, which so they drilled into my head and it's a pretty sizable hole. And they took a biopsy, thankfully, just a biopsy. And they never put a plate or anything back there. And thank God we were able to beat it with just chemo. So I still have this sizable, part of the back of my brain that has no protection. And so I see all this like Final Destination type. I've never watched those movies, but like just from the trailers, it's like all this like you see like I don't know, just like a saw on the ground or whatever that just like flips up in the air and like kills them in the face or whatever. Like this bad situation stuff. And so I'll see a knife on the countertop. My dad leaves like the scissors out all the time. They're like butcher scissors or whatever it is. And I always see them and like a bad scenario plays out in my head. So one day I was seeing like everything I saw just gave me just the worst images in my head. And I was just overwhelmed by all this horrible things that could go wrong during my day. And it was the day or the day after this book talked about thinking of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, thinking of the Holy Trinity, right? And so that night, as I had so many images in my head, I thought I prayed to God. I prayed to the Trinity, maybe the first time I've ever prayed, to the Trinity. And I said, God, Trinity, Holy Spirit, Jesus, please, I am so overwhelmed. Please just take this from me. I cannot handle this. Please bring me comfort and peace because I cannot stop this from happening in my head. And so I'm bad. I kind of wait to do all my Bible reading and prayers until the nighttime as I'm going to bed. But so I was kind of drifting in and out of sleep as I was falling asleep that night. And then one of the times I woke up and the only thought in my head was, we got you. And I was like, wow, I don't know if I've ever had one singular thought. I didn't hear like a voice or anything, but it was one singular thought that I was like, that's got to be something God put in my head. That's got to be something Jesus put in my head. I don't think of I don't think of God or like Jesus, or I don't know if I even think of the Holy Spirit, and them saying we, that's never a thought I've had. But it came because I prayed to them. I think I gotta believe that's really what happened. And so this was going all throughout Lent. And during Lent, I also downloaded that Hallow app. I mean, that app's been around for a while, and it's a Catholic prayer app. And this prayer app, it was following the theme was the Brothers Karamazov book. And it's a book about a prodigal son type of thing where I wish I could explain it to you. It's either Polish or Russian. I'm not exactly sure, but it's very much, the story of a son leaving to go, do extravagant things, spend money, kind of be reckless. I'm probably explaining this very badly. My memory is just messed up. I hope I'm doing okay. And meanwhile, there's a son at home, like the story Jesus tells in the Bible, and he's, upset with his brother. And then the brother comes home, and the father says, "Oh, let's throw a party for the son that comes home, that's come home, that's come back. Let's kill, let's cut the fattened calf or whatever it is. The good meat. Let's get the best stuff for the son that came home." And meanwhile, the son that's been there all along is like, I've been here. Why haven't you celebrated me? Why have I not gotten the best? Why have I not been celebrated for being loyal? And he's pissed. I mean, that's the story Jesus tells. This is a Christian author that has written this book. This is the theme of Hallow, along with this Rooted series I'm doing. And I've been following this. I've been praying. I've been meeting with these guys all throughout Lent. And it's been a good Lent. I feel like I've definitely been spending more time with God than I have been in a while. We're getting closer to Easter, and Good Friday comes, and we're getting closer. I'm meeting with a new neurologist because I've been having this seizure-like activity over the past 5 years. I have now what are called auras, which are typically referred to as the feeling that someone gets before they're about to have a seizure. For me, it's what is 99% of the time what I have, which can best be described as like I just get this sense that something like vertigo is coming or something like that. They're very nondescript, but it's like I like a feeling's coming and it's kind of intense and then it just passes. I rarely shake. If I have something in my hand, maybe it shakes a little bit, but I don't go into convulsions or anything. So I've been seeing this new doctor, and so Friday there's tests where they put a bunch of nodules on your head so it can scan your brain activity. So the Friday of Black Friday, they wanted me to do a nap test. So I went in to do this test where they put it on for 30 minutes and you try to nap. And these guys are putting the nodes on me. And we're talking about movies because obviously I'm a big movie guy. We're talking and they're like, what are your favorite? What are your top five? And the only ones that came to my mind that day, they're the only ones I wanted to say were just Inception and Interstellar. They're two of my favorites. I mean, Chris Nolan is obviously my favorite, a lot of film dudes' favorites. And they're very much fathers longing to get back to their families, doing everything they can to find their way back to their families. They're the only two movies I said that day. I don't know why, because I have plenty of others in my top five. It's so hard. People always used to say to me, I'd say, what are your top five? And they're like, there's too many. And as I've grown older, I totally understand why there's not just five. There's just too many. But so that's what I said. And then I got back and we went to church that night for Black Friday service. It's hard to be sad about Black Friday when it's 2,000 years after Jesus died because he's coming back 3 days later. I'm not that somber, and I've been spending all this time with Jesus, and I'm feeling up, in certain ways because I've seen him say he's got me, and I've heard him say we got you, and I'm feeling like cheerful that he's more a part of my life. So the pastor, he went through everything Jesus suffered and did. And then he says, what is it going to take for you? What do you need to leave to follow Jesus? What do you need to leave behind? And so I went, now to go to your time in prayer. And so I went to my time and I said, Jesus, do you need me to leave film behind? Is this dream over with? Do you want it to stop? And that has been, kind of the question for the last 2 years. I don't know if this, has run its course. I don't know if I'm chasing a dead end. I Another question I've had is just if I were to make a production company, what would I name it? Because I've overused Cancer Card. Let's be honest. I'm grateful for anybody who wants to treat me in a certain way, and I will regift it as many ways as I can. That's the goal of giving back through film, but I can't use that as my production company name. And what's interesting is I had woken up Black Friday, with the word undoubtable on my mind. And so I went to prayer, and then the word undoubtable came back to my head. And then I said it a few times, and I said undoubtable, undoubtable, undoubtedly real. And I was like, okay, undoubtedly real, undoubtedly real. And I looked up at the cross and I said, undoubtedly real. I love it, God. I love it. I got you. And when I said I got you, I'm like, whoa, I didn't realize I just returned what you said to me when they said, we got you. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna make movies that, you know, that are after your own heart, God. I'm gonna make movies that show that you are the father chasing after your creations, like the dads in Interstellar, like Cooper in Interstellar, like Dom in Inception, that are doing everything they can to get back to their children, their family, because God did everything to come back to get their kids back to them, and all it was all through Jesus, and all his children have to do is accept that, is say Jesus was sent to save me. And those movies, those aren't overtly Christian movies. I don't really know if Chris Nolan is Christian. I don't, but they have Christian themes in my opinion, and I love that. And so I want to make undoubtedly real movies to point people to stories in my life that are undoubtedly real. So when I looked up at that cross and I said, I got you, it reminded me of another story that was undoubtedly real. Everybody in my movie, The Cancer Card, is named after cancer fighters that I know, that I met since I fought. There's Benny, who's still alive and with us today, and he's the cancer fighter in the movie. Benny, his tumor was on the base of his brain, I believe. And they're all gonna get mad at me because I don't know facts exactly right. But Benny can't walk, he can't talk, he can communicate through winks, and he has an iPad that can track his eyes. He can type out things that way, but it's slow. He's gotta hover over a letter for several seconds before it types that letter, and then he's got to track over to the next letter. And so to write even, a 5 letter word takes 20 seconds, maybe, probably longer. And then a full sentence, pretty dang long. And it's rough. And I pray to God that it would happen much faster. And Tony, he died, unfortunately. I forget what exact year, and I apologize for not knowing. But Tony actually died during Holy Week, when I was in college at U of I. It was, I believe, either Wednesday or Thursday. He posted on social media that he only had a few more days to live. And I met him at the Newman Catholic Center, which is a dorm. It's a dorm. I I don't know if it's at every state university. I don't know exactly. But it's at a lot of them. It's a Catholic dorm, and that he lived there, I lived there. And I had said the word cancer too loud in a study area. And he came walking over and he's like, "Did you say cancer?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "I had cancer." And I'm like, "I had cancer too." And we met that way. So when he posted that he only had a few days to live, we rushed into the church to go pray really hard for him. A lot of us were in there. And all this survivor's guilt was just weighing on me so hard. And in the Catholic Church on Holy Week, they cover up all the icons of Jesus. This still does not sit right with me. I understand why they do it, but it was just, especially at this time, I was so mad because I was like, why, Jesus, would you hide on me at this time? Why, God? Why would you cover him up for me? Because I don't know why I got to survive, and you're taking him away. This guy that lives loudly for Jesus. So we were praying. I was asking God to not take him. I was praying for ultimate healing like he did for me. And so I ended up going home. I was going home for Easter, and I wanted to make him laugh. I think I got home on a Thursday or Friday night. I wanted to send him, just some videos that would make him laugh, get him not thinking about stuff. I sent him a Lonely Island video, threw it on the ground because I knew, if I were in his position, I just want to be chucking some IV poles and throwing some bags and just causing chaos in the hospital rooms that you're stuck in. And he texted me back. He's like, "This is killing me. This is exactly what I needed. I'm laughing so hard. Thank you, man." I was so glad I could make him laugh. And then I woke up the next morning and he had passed away. I did not know where Jesus was. I don't know why he took him. So Sunday on Easter, we went to church at my church, and I just something felt different in church that day, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't tell. I was still very mad with God. I was very mad with Jesus. And we get through all of service. I wasn't falling on deaf ears, but I was just angry. And at the end of service, our pastor was like, "Did you guys notice something new about church?" And I said, "Yep." And he said, "Did you guys see the cross that hangs above the stage?" And I'm like, "Yes." Or no, well, yeah, that must be it. And he goes, "Yeah, it's a new cross." And it was made by Bob Lucas. He handcrafted it. And I'm like, "Are you kidding? That's my best friend's dad." He was a woodsman. He built the fish tank in Home Alone. He built multiple sets in Chicago, films that shot in Chicago TV shows. He built all those things. And the pastor said he used different woods from, I forget all the details, but like several of the woods that were used to make Jesus's cross, I believe, and stuff like that. And he built that for our church. My best friend's dad on the same weekend, the same Easter Sunday that this boy I met, this man, young man, died. The same year I met him, the same year I was going through all this survivor's guilt, and Jesus showed back up. There was no, Jesus on the cross, but there was no, but Jesus showed up in this most glorious way that couldn't have been more personal to anybody but me. My best friend's dad built that, and Jesus, I could hear Jesus just saying to me, or I could feel it. I didn't hear it, but I could feel Jesus saying, "I got Tony. He's up here. He's out of pain. All that agony is gone, and I got him. Cancer's gone, and he's healed here in heaven." Can you imagine? You don't have to imagine. It's undoubtedly real. It's undoubtedly real. And so I'm like, let's make this production company called Undoubtedly Real. He put this word in my head. He's telling me don't give up on these dreams. And he's saying, man, maybe you don't have to be a writer, Jim. And I taught you, when you were sticking at baseball in eighth grade, but you were on a travel team and you had to become, a supporter for your team and cheer them on. You were doing that great. So why don't you be a producer? Why don't you make a podcast and help get other people's stories out there and help them talk about their faith and how they're showing that through their films. And maybe if they need help, who knows? Maybe you'll get to direct again one day and you'll get to direct stories that show my heart through them. And that's just what we'll do. I have led a path for you every way, through every doubt you've had, through every way you didn't think that you would get through cancer, through living in your parents' house for 2 years. You might have to be there another couple years. But keep praying, keep trusting me, and I'm gonna keep showing you I'm undoubtedly real. I'm gonna keep believing that. And hopefully through this podcast, through hopefully some movies I make that I help produce, that I help be a part of, I'm gonna help you see that he's undoubtedly real too. And he's gonna show you in ways that are so personal to you, that are going to be through, who knows, your best friend's dad, your mom, your cousin, your in ways that are just going to wow you, that are going to leave you in so much awe that there's no doubt that it's him. So put your trust in him. Take that gift, or maybe just look in his book a few times. Take a few steps because it'll grab you one day or another. Just try it out because he loves you and he's always going to be there to try to get back to you. maybe in your dreams, like Inception. No doubt. I'll catch you on the next episode. Hopefully with my co-host that I want to be here. She's been through some awesome stuff and some hard stuff. And she did the sound design on Cancer Card. And I want her to be here. But Cancer Card is about to be in a festival in St. Petersburg. I forgot to say this. Um, friend, a mom that used to come sit with me. She's from my church. She used to come sit with me while my mom could run errands. She used to walk both of my dogs at once. She moved to St. Petersburg with her family so her kids could play sports down there. She, I called her on the phone one day and she's like, check if there's a festival here in St. Pete. And so I entered being like, I don't think there's any way that I'm gonna get in. And then I got in, Cancer Card got in. And I was looking at the panelists today for all the workshops and stuff, and there's some people that are of pretty good faith and have been in a part of producing and writing some pretty big films that are important in faith culture. I signed up for those workshops. I'm hopefully going to meet them, and I'd really love for them to hear this story. I didn't want to wait on making this. I had this crazy dream last night. I swear to God, I had this crazy dream that I was driving around with my sister, and we saw these like yaks. We saw these giant yaks, and they had these long horns. And it was the craziest thing. They had these big goatees or whatever you want to call it, beards, and they had these long horns. And I was like, there were so many of them. And I was like, okay, maybe this is God telling me that he wants me to grab this opportunity by the horns to tell this story. Because I think I have to. I think I got to get this story out so when I meet these people, they can hear it. And so hopefully they'll listen. Hopefully you'll listen. And hopefully I'll have my friend on the next episode. She'll get to tell her stories and we'll get to inspire you to look in God's book a little bit. Maybe he gave me that dream about the yaks and the goats. God be with you. God bless you. Peace be with you. Undoubtable.